Empire of Gold, the Medici banking system nono umasi. The Medici family, hailing from Florence, Italy, played a pivotal role in shaping Renaissance Europe, both culturally and economically. Their influence was largely due to their banking prowess, establishing the Medici Bank in 1397. As one of the most prosperous and respected institutions of its time, the Medici Bank was at the forefront of financial innovation, introducing new forms of credit and banking practices that laid the groundwork for the modern banking system. During the Renaissance, the banking system underwent significant transformations, evolving from rudimentary money lending practices to a more structured and complex economic framework. Banks began to offer a wider range of financial services, including the management of deposits, foreign exchange, and the issuance of bills of exchange. This period marked the beginning of banking as a crucial factor in the economic development of Europe, facilitating increased trade and the spread of wealth. The strategic placement of Medici banks across major European cities, including Rome, Venice, and London, exemplified the family's understanding of the importance of geographic diversity in finance. The Medici Bank's innovations in accounting, particularly their development of the double-entry bookkeeping system, revolutionized the way businesses managed their finances and assessed their operations. Moreover, the Medici family used their wealth and banking influence to patronize arts and culture, significantly contributing to the Renaissance's cultural rebirth. Their support of artists like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci not only beautified Florence, but also cemented the city as a center of innovation and artistic excellence. Through their financial and cultural investments, the Medicis not only shaped the economic landscape of Europe, but also its cultural heritage, leaving an indelible mark on history. Chapter 1. Origins of Medici Banking. Giovanni de' Medici, c. Agnolo Bronzino. The roots of the Medici banking empire trace back to Averardo de' Medici, also known as Bici, who was not particularly successful as a banker. However, the family's fortunes in banking were significantly advanced by his son, Giovanni de' Medici, and a distant cousin, Vieri di Cambio, a notable Florentine banker. Under Vieri's tutelage, Giovanni and his brother Francesco gained crucial experience in the banking industry. By 1385, Giovanni had ascended to the role of general manager of the Rome branch, which functioned effectively as a partnership, but required less capital due to its dealings with the church, a predominantly depositing client. Vieri's bank eventually divided into three branches around 1391-1392, with one quickly failing and the others surviving under the management of Francesco and Giovanni respectively until 1443. Giovanni, in partnership with Benedetto di Lipaccio de' Bardi, took control of what would become the foundational branch of the Medici Bank. In 1397, a pivotal year for the Medici, Giovanni formally separated his operations from those of his nephew Averardo and relocated his bank from Rome to Florence. This move coincided with the decline of Florence's earlier banking giants, like the Bardi and Peruzzi, and the internal disputes and subsequent banishment of the Alberti clan in 1382. Giovanni's timing was opportune as it filled a void left by these banking families. Giovanni's new partnership in Florence with Gentile di Baldassare Buoni, and later others, capitalized on the 10,000 gold florins raised for their venture. This capital, combined with the Holy See's deposits and the strategic advantage of Florence's growing political and economic stature, bolstered by the conquest of Pisa and its valuable port in 1406, positioned the Medici Bank to thrive. This strategic foundation laid by Giovanni de' Medici would cement the family's legacy as pioneering bankers who not only managed wealth, but also significantly influenced the economic landscape of Renaissance Europe. Chapter 2. Rise of Medici Bank. The Medici Bank's expansion and operational strategies during the early 15th century were pivotal in establishing it as a major financial power in Renaissance Europe. In March 1402, the Medici established their third bank branch in Venice, which, despite initial mismanagement and the personal financial downfall of its original factor, eventually flourished. This branch pioneered the practice of compensating the general manager through shares in the branch, which he purchased with his own investment. During this period, the Medici also ventured into industrial operations with the establishment of woolen cloth factories in 1402 and 1408, reflecting their diversification into manufacturing alongside financial services. The Rome branch expanded its influence by opening additional branches in Naples, closed in 1425 and replaced with one in Geneva, and Gaeta, showcasing the bank's growing network across Italy. Despite its expansive reach, the bank maintained a relatively small workforce, which allowed for quick promotions and a well-compensated staff. The transition of leadership to Benedetto de Bardi as the general manager in 1420, and later to his brother Ilarione de Bardi, marked a critical period of reorganization and strategic shifts, including the dissolution of one of the wool factories. This period also indicated the beginnings of a generational shift in power from Giovanni to his descendants Cosimo and Lorenzo de' Medici. By the mid-1420s, the Medici Bank had solidified its financial base, largely due to the profitability of its Italian branches, particularly those in Rome and Venice. The Roman branch was notably successful, holding significant deposits from the papal curia. This financial stability supported the Medici during politically turbulent times, such as Cosimo's temporary exile to Venice. The establishment of the Bruges branch in 1439 under Bernardo di Giovanni d'Edoardo Portinari and its evolution into a full partnership by 1455 under Angelo Tani exemplified the Medici's strategic international expansion and adaptation to local business environments. This period also saw the development of the Avignon and Lyons branches, further enhancing the bank's European network. The leadership of Cosimo de' Medici and his ministro Giovanni Benci through 1455 represented the zenith of the bank's success, characterized by strategic expansion and robust profitability. However, after Cosimo's death in 1464, the bank began to experience a gradual decline, exacerbated by managerial challenges and the heavy financial demands of political and military engagements. This decline was marked by mismanagement in critical branches like Milan and Bruges, particularly under the leadership of the Portinari brothers, which would eventually contribute to the bank's financial troubles and loss of influence. Chapter 3. Operational Practices of the Medici Banking System. Prior to the Medici's rise, banking in Europe was rudimentary, primarily focused on money lending with high interest rates, often managed by individual financiers or small family groups. The sector was fraught with risks, including banditry, warfare, and the vagaries of princely courts, which often defaulted on loans. The Medici family, through the Medici Bank, introduced substantial innovations that not only transformed their fortunes, but also the very fabric of banking itself. These innovations included the double-entry bookkeeping system, the use of letters of credit, and the concept of the holding company, each playing a pivotal role in shaping modern financial systems. The double-entry bookkeeping system. The double-entry bookkeeping system, considered one of the greatest advancements in the history of business and accounting, involves recording each transaction in two accounts, debits in one and credits in another. This system provided a clear, organized method to track assets, liabilities, and capital, thereby reducing errors and increasing the reliability of financial records. The Medici Bank was instrumental in refining and popularizing this system. Through detailed ledger entries, they demonstrated its efficacy in tracking vast numbers of transactions across their various branches. The adoption of this system enabled the Medici to maintain accuracy in their financial records, uphold transparency, and scale their operations significantly, setting a precedent for future banking practices. Some sources suggest that Giovanni di Bici de' Medici introduced this method for the Medici Bank in the 14th century, though evidence for this is lacking. Letters of credit and bills of exchange. The introduction of letters of credit and bills of exchange by the Medici Bank revolutionized the way trade was conducted. These financial instruments allowed traders to conduct business without the need to carry large sums of money, thus reducing the risk of theft and loss over long distances. A letter of credit provided the guarantee that a seller would receive payment, backed by the Medici Bank, ensuring trust and credibility. Similarly, bills of exchange facilitated trade across different currencies and regions, managing the risks associated with exchange rate fluctuations. Historical records from the Medici archives show numerous examples where these tools were used to finance ventures in textiles, spices, and other commodities across Europe, illustrating their practical application and widespread acceptance. This system also provided a form of interest that skirted the definition of usury because the risk was borne by both parties. The concept of the holding company. The Medici Bank, recognizing the limitations of communication delays during the Renaissance, established a network of branches in key cities to facilitate efficient operations. These branches, located in strategic locations such as Pisa, Milan, Venice, Geneva, Avignon, Bruges, London, and others, functioned with a high degree of autonomy due to the slow pace of mail communication. This network also included itinerant branches that served the mobile papal court, earning the Medici the nickname God's Bankers. In cities where direct branches were not feasible, the Medici Bank contracted with local bankers to represent their interests, ensuring the bank's presence and influence extended even further. The Medici Bank's organizational structure was notably different from its predecessors like the Peruzzi and Bardi banks, which suffered from centralized control and lack of legal and financial independence within branches. The Medici adopted a decentralized model, similar to a modern holding company, where each branch operated as an independent partnership that shared profits with the central bank in Florence. This structure prevented the takeover of the bank by external parties and provided stability. Branch managers, or governatori, were financially invested in their branches and shared in the profits, which aligned their interests with the success of the bank. These managers had significant autonomy in daily operations, although strategic decisions were still governed by the central office in Florence. Chapter 4: Medici Bank, Patron of Arts and Culture. The Medici family utilized the vast wealth accumulated through their banking operations to become one of the most influential patrons of the arts during the Renaissance. Their patronage was not merely a display of wealth, but a strategic tool that intertwined art, culture, and politics to enhance their social stature and political power. By investing in arts and architecture, the Medici Bank directly influenced the cultural landscape of Florence, turning the city into the cradle of Renaissance art and thought. The dome of the Cappella dei Principi dominates the San Lorenzo architectural complex. The Medici's financial support enabled the creation of landmark artworks and architectural marvels. Notable projects included the construction of the Medici Chapel and the Laurentian Library, both designed by Michelangelo. Their patronage extended to commissioning Botticelli for The Birth of Venus and Primavera, artworks that epitomize Renaissance ideals of beauty and humanism. These commissions not only enhanced the visual appeal of Florence, but also served as a testament to the Medici's influence and legacy. The patronage of towering figures such as Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and Botticelli had a transformative impact on the Renaissance cultural landscape. By funding these artists, the Medici not only fostered an environment of artistic innovation and excellence, but also ensured that Florence became synonymous with Renaissance art. Their support extended beyond the visual arts to include poets, philosophers, and scientists, thereby cultivating a diverse cultural milieu that propelled intellectual and artistic advancements. The financial mechanisms of the Medici Bank facilitated a sustained investment in the arts, which in turn influenced the Renaissance art movement significantly. The availability of funds through the bank allowed the Medici to commission and support large-scale projects, contributing to the evolution of artistic techniques and themes. This era witnessed a marked shift towards realism, humanism, and individual expression, themes that were supported and propagated by the Medici through their patronage. Art patronage by the Medici also functioned as a form of cultural diplomacy. By commissioning works from artists across Europe, they not only spread the ideals of the Renaissance but also established a network of influence that extended beyond Florence. Art became a diplomatic tool, used to forge alliances, display power, and negotiate social and political prestige. In this way, the Medici Bank's investment in art went beyond mere aesthetic appreciation to become a central element in the broader strategy of governance and international relations. Through these cultural investments, the Medici crafted an enduring legacy that shaped European art and politics long beyond their era. Chapter 5: Medici Banks and Politics. The Medici's relationships with the political powers of the time. The Medici family's ascent to power was significantly bolstered by their strategic alliances with key political figures, including popes, kings, and other ruling families across Europe. Their relationships were cultivated through financial interactions facilitated by the Medici Bank, which provided loans and financial services to various European courts. This network of influential connections was crucial in expanding the Medici's political reach beyond Florence, embedding them deeply within the broader political landscape of Renaissance Europe. The use of financial influence to secure political power. Financial influence was a cornerstone of the Medici strategy for gaining and maintaining political power. By extending credit and managing the papal tithes, the Medici not only amassed considerable wealth but also gained leverage over important political and ecclesiastical figures. For instance, their role as bankers to the Vatican placed them in a position of indispensable financial authority, allowing them to wield significant influence within the Church's highest circles. This financial prowess enabled them to secure key political positions for family members, including 4 papal seats, which in turn fortified their political standing in Florence and across Europe. The role of the Medici in major political events. The Medici played pivotal roles in major political events of their time, using their wealth and connections to shape outcomes that favored their political and economic interests. A notable example is their involvement in the Council of Florence in 1439. The council was an ecumenical gathering aimed at reconciling the differences between the Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic churches. The Medici, particularly Cosimo de' Medici, were instrumental in having the council convened in Florence. They financed the hosting of the council, which not only elevated the city's prestige, but also positioned them as key players in one of the significant religious dialogues of the Renaissance. This strategic use of their financial resources to influence major political and religious events exemplified the Medici's adeptness at merging economic power with political strategy. Their ability to navigate and manipulate these power networks not only ensured their dominance in Florentine affairs, but also their enduring legacy as masterful statesmen and patrons in the tapestry of European history. Chapter 6: Crisis and Decline of the Medici Bank. Failure in Lyon and London. The decline of the Medici Bank during the Renaissance, particularly evident in its foreign branches, was marked by a series of financial missteps and political entanglements. In Lyon, mismanagement due to the venality of its manager almost led to the branch's collapse, requiring rescue efforts by Francesco Sassetti in the mid-15th century. This was a precursor to more severe problems at the London branch. Established as a major financial hub, the London branch faced challenges from the outset. It contended with resistance from local English merchants and clothiers and navigated the tricky political waters of securing export licenses, which often involved extending loans to influential members of parliament. By 1465, the branch's status was downgraded, and in 1467, Angelo Tani was sent from Florence to audit its finances and recover outstanding debts. Despite his efforts, the branch struggled due to poor management and high interest rates on internal loans. Edward IV of England, a notorious bad debtor. The branch's vulnerabilities were further exposed by its dealings with Edward IV of England. Large sums were loaned to the Yorkist king, who was notoriously unreliable in meeting his debt obligations. These financial exposures were exacerbated during the Wars of the Roses, when the branch also unwisely extended credit to the Lancastrian side, who were ultimately defeated, rendering their debts irrecoverable. The cumulative effect of these misjudgments and external pressures led to the branch's liquidation in 1478, resulting in significant losses amounting to 51,533 gold florins. The subsequent Tudor dynasty did not honor these debts, underscoring the severe financial impact and contributing to the broader decline of the once dominant Medici Bank. Failure in Bruges. Following the failure of the Medici Bank's London branch, it was restructured as an accomando and placed under the administration of the Bruges branch, managed by Tommaso Portinari. Portinari, however, had a history of poor management, which included engaging in risky side businesses and ingratiating himself with the Burgundian court through excessive loans. His financial decisions, such as the unprofitable acquisition of galleys, further destabilized the branch. Tommaso Portinari. Portinari's management led to the assumption of the London branch's debts by the Bruges branch. After Piero de' Medici's death, Portinari secured articles of partnership that allowed him significant autonomy, though he was often absent from the Low Countries. His tenure was marked by questionable practices, including refusing to return deposits under the pretense that they were invested in the partnership and falsely implicating Angelo Tani as a full partner to share in the losses. The financial turmoil under Portinari's leadership was substantial. Lorenzo de' Medici, also known as Lorenzo the Magnificent, documented in memoranda the extent of the mismanagement, noting bad debts owed by Charles the Bold alone amounted to £16,150 groat, far exceeding the lending limits set in the partnership articles. Moreover, Lorenzo criticized Portinari for manipulating the business structure to his advantage, excluding the profitable wool trade from the Bruges operations to concentrate gains in a separate partnership where he held a larger share. By 1478, the combined mismanagement led to the liquidation of the Bruges branch with significant financial losses, estimated to exceed 70,000 gold florins. The losses were possibly understated, given the overvaluation of assets on the books. In response, Lorenzo dispatched a trusted agent, Ricasoli, to audit and dissolve the partnership. Assisted by Angelo Tani, Ricasoli confronted Portinari, who was forced to acknowledge his manipulated accounts due to his previous assertions of their accuracy. This intervention was a direct attempt by Lorenzo to address and rectify the financial chaos perpetrated under Portinari's management. Decline and fall of the Medici Bank. After Cosimo de' Medici's death, control of the Medici Bank passed to his eldest son, Piero di Cosimo, known as the Gouty, due to his severe gout. Piero, although more academically inclined than his brother, who had died in 1463, took on the leadership role. His nephew Pier Francesco could have contested the inheritance but chose not to, likely due to strong family bonds fostered by Cosimo. Piero di Cosimo de' Medici. Piero's tenure was marked by his attempts at implementing a conservative financial policy, which included calling in loans to stabilize the bank. This action, however, led to financial strain within Florence as businesses faced collapse, contributing to unrest and dissatisfaction with Medici leadership. Machiavelli noted that these policies might have exacerbated local economic difficulties, although other factors like the Venetian-Ottoman War also played a role in regional financial instability. Under Piero's directive, several branch adjustments were made. Attempts were made to recover loans from Edward IV in the London branch. The Milan branch was instructed to limit loans. Tommaso Portinari was told to dispose of non-profitable assets in the Bruges branch and avoid loans to secular rulers, and efforts were made to shut down the unprofitable Venice branch. These measures reflect Piero's recognition of the bank's overextended commitments and his efforts to curtail them, albeit facing significant political and economic challenges, especially from foreign monarchs like Edward IV, who could influence trade critical to Florence. Triumphal entry of Charles VIII in Florence, November 17, 1494, by Francesco Granacci. By 1494, many of the Medici Bank branches had closed or were failing, culminating in the bank's downfall coinciding with the collapse of Medici political power in Florence, sparked by the rise of Savonarola and external pressures like the French invasion led by Charles VIII. The central Florentine Banco was destroyed, and the surviving branches either became independent or were absorbed by other entities. Historians like de Roover attribute the bank's decline partly to Cosimo's deep involvement in politics and patronage. which diverted attention from strict managerial oversight, allowing for fraud and mismanagement. Additionally, Francesco Sassetti, despite his previous successes, could not prevent significant failures in branches like Lyon and Bruges. Economic conditions such as the devaluation of gold against silver further complicated the bank's operations, indicating systemic financial challenges in late medieval Europe. Decline of Medici family's status. The decline of the Medici Bank had profound implications for both the family's status and the city of Florence. As the bank faltered, so too did the Medici's political influence. The loss of financial power translated into a weakened political position, making them vulnerable to rivals within Florence. This vulnerability culminated in the expulsion of the Medici family from Florence in 1494, marking a significant low point in their history. For Florence, the bank's decline meant the loss of economic stability and a reduction in patronage. The Medici Bank had been a crucial element in supporting the city's economy and its cultural projects. Its decline reduced funding for artistic and architectural endeavors, slowing the cultural flourishing that had characterized the city during the height of the Medici's power. Ultimately, the bank's decline was a combination of mismanagement, political entanglements, economic conditions, and strategic errors in branch operations. These elements collectively led to the demise of what was once the largest bank in Europe, marking a significant shift in the economic and political landscape of Renaissance Florence. Conclusion. The Medici Bank played a crucial role in shaping the economic, cultural, and political landscapes of Renaissance Europe, leaving a lasting impact that extended far beyond its operational years. Economically, the bank introduced several financial innovations that have become foundational to modern banking, including double-entry bookkeeping, the use of letters of credit, and bills of exchange. These practices revolutionized the way businesses managed finances and facilitated international trade, laying the groundwork for contemporary financial systems. Culturally, the Medici's patronage of the arts fueled the Renaissance, supporting a myriad of artists, sculptors, and architects like Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and Botticelli. Their investments helped produce some of the period's most iconic works, which continue to define Western artistic standards. The Medici influence extended to architecture, with significant contributions to the Florentine skyline, reinforcing Florence's status as the cradle of the Renaissance. Politically, the Medici used their wealth and influence from banking to secure and exert power, positioning themselves as key figures in both Florentine and papal politics. Their financial capabilities allowed them to form strategic alliances with powerful families and rulers across Europe, thereby weaving their influence deeply into the political fabric of their time. In reflection, the role of the Medici Bank illustrates the profound impact of wealth in shaping societies. Their ability to leverage economic power for cultural patronage and political influence underscores the intertwined nature of finance, art, and politics, a relationship that continues to shape societies today. The legacy of the Medici Bank remains evident not only in modern financial practices, but also in the enduring cultural treasures that continue to enrich global heritage. We offer you deep historical information from history on YouTube channel. Subscribe. Now don't forget to turn on notifications.